Hello, everyone. My name is Ian Rosen. I'm the Executive Vice President of Digital and Corporate Strategy at Harry Rosen. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about digitizing our legacy. I'm going to start about telling you a little bit of history about Harry Rosen, and then talk to you a little bit about what it took to digitize what makes us special. So let me start with Harry. Meet Harry Rosen. Harry's actually my grandfather. In 1954, he opened a small 500 square foot store that focused on selling made-to-measure suits to clients. He put down a $500 down payment in an area called Cabbagetown, which was a bit outside of the city center in Toronto. And he just said, I'm going to develop a client by client by client. He kept detailed records. We think he may have developed the first CRM. He was taking notes on a Rolodex on when people's birthdays were, when their weddings were. He followed up with where their job promotions were heading. So he was very in tune with his clients, and he developed a reputation as somebody who was extremely customer focused. Harry's still with us. He's 89 years old. He has a point of view on everything fashion retail, and he lets us know it each and every single day. So that's Harry. And what made Harry special, you must have heard that he's just very scrappy, very entrepreneurial, but one of the things that helped the business grow from a small 500 square foot shop to what it is today is advertising. Harry was dead set on establishing himself as the expert on menswear. This is an ad in which, in typical Harry fashion, he exchanged one ad for one suit with a friend of his who ended up being a partner in many, many years in business with him. And it established that this is Harry. Harry has a store. Harry sells suits. Harry's suits are naturally tailored. Harry calls this lead unpadded styling the Cambridge look, which he actually imported from London. He went there on a business trip, saw what people were wearing there, and then worked with a manufacturer to basically mirror the look and bring that to Canada. So Harry was all about suits. Remember his name. And Harry continued to reinforce that message in Toronto again and again and again, specifically using a campaign called Ask Harry. If you had a question about menswear, Harry had the answer. How wide should your cuff be? Where should the suit jacket sit? And how much cuff should be showing? What shirt and tie should you be wearing with the specific look? Ask Harry, ask Harry, ask Harry. Harry was the expert. And Harry had developed quite a little bit of a business at his 500 square feet, but he decided it was time for him to make bold moves. And instead of taking a slightly bigger shop and moving his business a little closer to downtown, he took up a store right in the heart of downtown. It was 4 times the size. And what made that an extremely exciting thing for him is he was closer to more professionals who were more into that look, more into tailored clothing, and he got the ability to scale and build expertise with new clients. In 1981, after a big amount of success, and I have to fast track somewhere, Harry started to expand across Canada, starting in Edmonton. He opened up in Montreal. He opened more stores in Toronto. And he was really focused on ensuring that each and every person who worked for him was just as much an expert on both client service and clienteling, as well as tailored clothing as he was. Just to fast forward to where we are today, Harry Rosen is Canada's largest quality menswear retailer. We operate in all of Canada's 7 major markets, so the bigger cities. We have 19 stores. 2 of those are freestanding Ermenegildo Zegna boutiques, which we're the official franchisee in Canada for. We have 3 outlet stores, and the rest are Harry Rosen stores. We actually were the first Canadian luxury retailer to sell online in 2009. Our online business back there was quite unique. A lot of returns to the store that turned into great in-store sales. So not exactly the most healthy e-commerce business, but we definitely knew that there was something happening when it came to online shopping. And just to give you a frame of reference, if you've never been in one of our stores for how large they are, we're about 18,000 square feet is our average store size. We have stores that stretch up to 50,000 square feet. So not quite a department store, just a larger box store in a typical mall that you would see. And I want to emphasize a few things that I've touched on through the last few minutes is what made Harry different. And I'm going to touch on this when it comes to our digital transformation, but we had highly trained staff. We train our staff incredibly hard on clothesmanship, which is how to alter, tailor, and manufacture a suit. We make sure that each and every product we sell, that our team on the floor and the sales floor who interact with clients know about the intimate details of that, because we always want to portray ourselves as experts, just like those Ask Harry ads were years and years ago. Service. The client's the only thing that matters. We talk to our clients, we listen to our clients, we evaluate our people against how client-oriented they are. Clients were always at the center. We're trendsetters. We really feel that we have a role to play when it comes to defining what men should wear for any occasion. That was for work, but it's also for the weekend. It's also for special events. So we see ourselves as the expert and the trendsetter out there. And we've been family owned and operated since day one. Harry started the business. My father, Larry, has been in the business for over 30 years now and has been running it for the last 25 or 20. And I joined the business as the first third generation member. I have two brothers who might sneak in here soon enough, but for now, I'm the first third generation member, and I've been focused on digital and corporate strategy. And I think that allows us to focus on what was Harry intending to do when he started the business, not let's grow for growth's sake. Now, digital transformation. One of the big questions we started to ask ourselves when we said, how might we digitize what makes us unique? Well, it wasn't this. This is our website in 2018. And it's a quite grainy photo, so I feel like I'm hitting ourselves over the head a little bit, but this is not all the things that I just romanced and told you about Harry Rosen. Putting pictures online was not going to allow us to build the Harry Rosen business. And one of the things that you might find on our website today is a lot of product result pages that look quite similar to this, but there's a lot more surrounding it. And that's something that we were really focused on, being a little bit more than products on a page. And we were looking to be able to differentiate ourselves. And I know we're on a conference right now that is focused on headless commerce and modern commerce and MACH architectures. So we didn't necessarily say, hey, let's go use headless commerce to accomplish this unique point of view. Really what it came down to was we had a desire to be able to say yes more than no. And what I mean by that is when we dream up a journey that we feel would be best for our clients or the best to represent Harry Rosen online, we didn't want the answer to be no. We wanted to be able to say, yes, we could. And actually the answer ended up being, let's use a headless architecture to power that journey. So I'm not going to talk a lot about architecture today. I'm going to talk a little bit more about philosophy, but when it comes to why headless commerce and why a best of need architecture was something that we focused on using to leverage or to build forward on our digital transformation, it really comes down to the answer of yes. And owning the front end, owning the glass gives you a huge opportunity to do that. So one of the other things that we were seeing, and this is just a universal truth, is our customer was interacting with digital properties that were way better than what we were putting in the market. And we wanted to, I liken this to what taxi cabs faced when Uber came to market. So in the past, you put up with a lot of the inconveniences that came with riding in a taxi cab. You had to pay in cash. You had to tell the person where directions are. Now, that's not the worst things in the world. But once you've had the great experience of sitting in an Uber and being able to know that the driver knows where you're going, he's going to get paid, you're going to have to not have that weird conversation about a tip. It's just significantly better for the client. And I liken that to what we were doing in the past was comparing ourselves to our immediate peers. So these are three of our largest competitors in Canada. Nordstrom and Saks Fifth Avenue came down here or up here in 2014. And currently we're benchmarking ourselves against everyone who has a better digital experience than Harry Rosen. And today, and the pandemic's definitely forced us on a number of businesses online. My local coffee shop has one of the best online experiences I've ever interacted with, and they have one of the most robust and engaging loyalty programs I've ever been a part of. So if my local coffee shop can do it, we have to be so much more ahead. And that's the way we started thinking about digital transformation, is we really have to up our game and be competing against all the touch points that our customer is having. So I said all those things, and planning is nice, but as much as you're drawing the perfect architecture down on paper, sometimes things push you to move quicker. So we were planning our digital transformation. It was going to stretch all of 2020, and we were maybe going to get live by 2020 holiday, maybe the period after. COVID hit in March, and we said, we don't want to invest any more in our current architecture. We want to get live with a minimum viable product. I'll also point out that our largest source of revenue has been shut down more than any other jurisdiction in the world. Our Toronto stores have been shut for over 200 days in the last 15 months. And all of our stores are currently operating with significant capacity restrictions. So when you're operating in that environment, you need to have a world-class digital experience. So we took, and I'll share a few results, but it took us 6 months to build a minimum viable product. We had to make huge and hard cuts along the way for what we were going to put in front of our clients as the minimum viable product. We focused on a best of need tech stack. We weren't necessarily going out there and saying who's the leader. We're saying who can accomplish this function the best within our tech stack. So we ended up using Amplience for content management, Algolia for search, Commerce Tools is our promotions engine, our cart, our commerce backbone, Bold is our checkout provider, Login Radius is our identity and access management system. So we had a lot of players in there, but each one we felt was definitely perfect to fit the needs of each one of the functions that our commerce stack operates. And in terms of the outcomes, I won't go too much into the details, but our online business grew 3x last year. It's our largest store. Through holiday and the biggest periods and peaks that we've ever seen with our stores closed, just like I referenced, we had zero downtime. And that's one of the things that I think is most exciting about what we've ended up architecting, is it's built to scale and we can dream big. But what I want to share in the next little bit of this presentation is how might we use technology to drive that uniqueness, that that stuff that made Harry Rosen special. So I'm just going to go over 3 clear examples of why I think the architecture and the approach that we took has allowed us to say yes more than no. So one of the things that made Harry Rosen, has always made Harry Rosen really special, is the magic that happens in store. Getting measured for a suit is a bonding experience. We flex our expertise. We allow the client to ask questions. There's nothing better to build a relationship than having the client in front of you. So how can we take that magic and move that in store? And one of the things that Harry, my grandfather, came up with as a premise is whenever a client comes in for an appointment to our store, they should not be browsing the store. They should be expecting a table, we call it a laydown, that looks very similar to what's on the slide right here. And the client doesn't have to feel like they have to go browsing. They can go look for things that might do it, but the person or the clothing advisor has listened to your needs and they've presented the best of what Harry Rosen has to offer. So one of the things we asked ourselves is, how can we digitize that? And one of the things you'll see on the right, and it won't be as you'll have to trust me that it's just as nice, is we've allowed each one of our clothing advisors to personalize web pages down to the size for their client. And they can select the size, the color. This can be based on a conversation. This can be based on what they were browsing or talking about last time they had a shopping experience together. This can be stuff to pair back to that great blue blazer you bought last time you were there. Our clothing advisors are making many, many, many pages each and every day. And this has turned into a huge success and one of those journeys that we dreamed up in the past, but we're never able to execute without this flexible technology stack. So just in terms of results, that journey that I just talked to you about represents 10 to 15% of our e-commerce sales. We didn't think of ourselves, even though we had a small percentage of our business as e-commerce in 2018, 2017, we didn't think of that as, oh, we're behind. we said, oh, well, we have a huge asset of people who like to shop with us in store. How might we move them online rather than thinking about putting products online and trying to grow that business independently? So a big source of our growth online has been taking our core and loyal clients and giving them permission to shop online with their trusted clothing advisor. The average order value that goes through this flow is almost 2 times. We have 500 active associates making at least 5 to 10 of these a day. So you think about how that scales and how that manifests in terms of a personalized experience. When our stores are closed, our associates are still doing what they do best. How do you take another strength one step further? So Harry Magazine has been a publication that we've been publishing for 30 years. It's widely read. And one of the journeys that was extremely powerful in the past for us is clients would rip out pages from the magazine, hand the page to the clothing advisor and say, hey, I want to look like this. And we said, okay, we're still going to keep doing this magazine. It's well read, it's public, it does the job, but how do we take this idea of head to toe dressing one step further? Well, we developed a feature called Get the Look. And Get the Look allows you to shop a full head to toe image on our website. You click Get the Look, the full outfit pulls up on the right-hand side. You can choose your size and check out in a very quick order. But that's just one example of how we're taking something that was great, adding a new element to it and bringing it online. And one thing that's even exciting now, our windows are kind of world-class. They're quite legendary. When people walk by our store, we track how many people stop and have the head lean to see what is in store. We've actually set up QR codes in front of each one of our windows that allow people to shop the look on the mannequin. And that's a huge way for us to actually start our digital interaction with the client. And that's become a huge source of traffic for our website. And that traffic's becoming extremely valuable because people have an expressed interest to say, hey, I want to know what product that is. So that's a really exciting way to take another journey one step further. Now, in terms of the outcome of this specific thing and all the things that came with thinking about content in a little bit more unique way, we've had a 150% increase in page views per session. We've had a 300% lift in content page value. So we used to do lookbooks and we used to generate great photography, but now since our journey is so engaging, we've had a 300% lift in the value of those pages. And that is a mistake, but we'll forget that happened. How might we establish, one of the other questions we asked ourselves was, how might we establish consistency across channels? And this is where the word API comes up, but we said we need to establish sources of truth across our stores on the left-hand side and the web on the right-hand side. And we cannot think about having independent processes powering each one. They had to be unique and shared. So when it came to pricing and discounts, when it comes to inventory and inventory accuracy, when it comes to your loyalty point balance, your client record, your orders, you need to be able to track these across both channels, not knowing which one you made the transaction on. So we've used a headless architecture. We used APIs and created ones across each one of these dimensions to allow ourselves to power great experiences. And just a few of the outcomes, we've had a huge reduction in redundant systems. We've been able to retire a few of them. We've been able to put content to work 4 times more because people aren't using significantly, they're not working to do things again and again and again because we have APIs powering our content management. And we've had a 30% reduction in hours per integration. So that's really key because everything is an API. It's just easier to get at the information. So that's my quick story about Harry Rosen and some of the key learnings from our digital transformation. It's still ongoing. I think that we have a lot ahead of us, and we're going to keep imagining what makes Harry Rosen special and how can we bring that experience online. I'll leave you with my favorite quote: clothes make the man, naked people have little to no influence in society. Remember that when you're on your next Zoom call. Once again, I'm Ian Rosen, and thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Ian. That was great.
Thank you.
We are also joined by Catherine Jones, My Planet, who will join us for Q&A. Catherine, can you introduce yourself quick?
Yeah, absolutely. I have worked with Ian and the team on parts of this transformation. My Planet, we're a Toronto-based digital software studio. Happy to be here.
Great. And what did you think of the session, having worked with Ian so closely and now having watched it?
I thought it was great. We spend a lot of time talking about, the way the site is performing today, but it was fun to get a look back at the early days and, always heartening to see that the values we kind of aligned on early on are still reflected in the work that we put out. So loved seeing it.
Yeah, we really love to see the Harry Rosen My Planet partnership. I think it's really among the best out there in terms of client vendor relationships. So kudos for you for taking care of them. We appreciate it. I really like the session. Besides Ian being the best dressed customer we have, it's a really inspirational story about how a generational business can really survive and thrive as the generations go on. And I really love, and there have been some great newspaper articles and magazine articles written about their ability to take that physical in-store, very personalized experience of somebody going in, buying a suit, having it tailored, having it fitted, and then taking that and applying that to a digital model. And not only did Harry Rosen survive, but really thrive during COVID. I think that was in large part due to their investment in technology and converting that experience to more of a technology-based one rather than an in-person one. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Couple questions from the audience. So, obviously the easiest thing, given you're a Canadian company, I won't name the platform, but there's, a giant Canadian-based commerce platform there that is the logical choice for a lot of the really smaller brands out there. But you have aspirations to grow really big, and you went out and picked commerce tools. Why did you do that? Why did you go headless, and why not just take a website in a box?
Yeah, I think as I touched on during the presentation, we really wanted to own experience. We think that the future of our business, the website, if you want to call it, or the .com or digital, is going to be that center of gravity that our customers come to kind of conduct whether that's a return, be inspired, whether they want to come back to that product they recently viewed, whether they want to build a wish list or a gift list for somebody. We see experience is really key. And when we looked at the potential limitations of going back in a box, we said, well, we're going to start saying no more than yes. And that was kind of the central thesis of, okay, this will be hard. We feel like you speak a lot, Kelly, about saying no to clients. And I feel like we were probably right on the cusp of being too early on in our digital maturity to be one to dive this deep into headless. But we sat down with our team and we gained confidence around the room that we're all ready for this kind of march. And that was pre-COVID. And then when COVID hit, it turned out a really easy way for us to scope down to a minimum viable product and really just focus on, okay, what are we trying to build here? It's just core commerce in a box. We're just building it in a more progressive, lasting way.
Yeah, well said. And a question for both of you, maybe Catherine, you can take this first, but how do you think shopping will evolve from a consumer standpoint?
Yeah, I think the previous decade of e-com was all around, supporting your acquisition team. How do we get more folks in the funnel? I think that was where effort went. Shoppers have become so much more mature in shopping online, of course, accelerated by the last year. And so I think what we're looking at now is how do we build for retention? How do we build for experience? How do we build for multiple ways of shopping and, offering shoppers choice in the right way to to transact or to research or to share, or really whatever it is they might need on any given day.
And maybe just
And
to
Ian, what
add
do you think?
additionally, I think we're trying to, sorry to jump in quicker, but I think what we're trying to do is build confidence across channels using digital. So how can I get more confident in my digital purchase by going into store and sizing myself up? How could I get more confident in my in-store purchase by knowing what's in that physical store right now? This is all, like, the future of shopping to me is building confidence in the experience you deliver no matter where the customer transacts. Can I come in, return something that I bought online, and have that returned to the initial method of payment, which is a huge gap that a lot of brands have today. These are things that you have to think through. And every time you interrupt a smooth journey, you're just adding, I guess, friction to that experience that you want to deliver against.
Yeah, I think that's really the word there is friction, right? How do you eliminate that from top to bottom, which you seem to have done a good job of, so that's great. Another question for Catherine. So with the traditional old school platforms where everything's in a box, it was pretty easy for business users to centrally manage everything. There was one admin console, top to bottom, for the entire stack. And now with a MACH-based stack, you have basically best of breed vendors, and Commerce Tools has its own, right? And if you work your way across the stack, every vendor in that stack has its own management and admin console. So how did you work with Harry Rosen to train the business users on how to navigate those different UIs? Because this is an area where it is a little bit more challenging, at first at least.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the benefits of this approach is you can really tool your processes and your tech to fit what your business needs. The challenge is that you need to do that. And, Ian was really great to identify that for his team early on. And, I think these days when we see and work with retailers who are making this move, you do have to take people and process considerations into your project. Things are going to change, the model where someone logs in and, everything is there. Much of it may not work the way that a user might want it to, but it is all in one place. That's not how we're running digital today. So I think, the most important thing, probably two most important things are, first, bring the team along, ensure that folks understand why, tool X or Y is being chosen, how processes are being, pardon?
Keep
Sorry.
going.
Got some feedback there. How processes are being developed, and then start small, right? I think it's really important to take an iterative approach, bring folks along, roll out change in increments rather than all at once.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for anyone to follow. Well, with that, we are out of time for Q&A. Thank you both so much for staying around to answer questions, and thank you to Ian for your initial presentation. We appreciate your partnership.
Thank you, Callie. Thanks,
you.
everyone.